process. I'm Kylie Fowler.
And I'm Rory Canavan.
So the asset verification process is all about getting accurate data so that you can manage your assets better, know where they are, feel that you're confident that you have all your assets on record and can manage them basically.
Yeah, you'll be quite surprised when you're starting out in SAM and ITAM and you're siphoning in data from various systems and from various data sources that you might actually have to sort of massage the data to improve it to get the kind of reports that you're actually expecting to see that reflect the nature of the IT estate.
It's a classic case of garbage in, garbage out. So accurate data really is a foundation for any sort of IT asset management. So the key thing about achieving accurate data is process improvement. When you first start your IT asset, working with hardware or IT asset management, you'll find that your processes produce data, and often that data will be inaccurate. So when you're first starting out to try and improve your data accuracy, focus on running reports that will allow you to identify process improvements that you can make to then improve your overall data accuracy.
Yeah, it's too easy to hope that the glaring errors will just leap out once you import the data from a given trusted source. And the mention of source there as well. You want to get to a point where you are a trusted source of information. So the data that you take should be, wherever possible, golden sources of information that have already been proven to be worthwhile and valuable in the business.
Yeah. So when you're checking whether or not your data is accurate, the trick is to use what I call exception reports. And this is where you take two sources of data that should be comparable. And a classic example is the data that is brought back by your discovery tool to tell you what equipment is on the network, and the data that is provided by your antivirus tool, for instance. So you run a report that says this is the list of IT assets on the network, this is the list of IT assets that are reporting back to the antivirus tool, compare the two, and then you realise that you've got some pieces of equipment that have AV installed and are reporting back to antivirus, but they're not reporting back into your discovery tool, and vice versa. So that gives you a list of a list of equipment that you need to remediate. Some are going to have antivirus installed, whereas others are going to have your discovery tool installed. And this is where process improvement is really important. If you produce an exception report like that and you've got hundreds and hundreds of discrepancies, to go through and fix them up one by one is going to be impossible. It's going to be a waste of everyone's time, and you're going to get huge kickback and pushback from the people who are expected to do it. So what you need to do instead is go to your build teams, for instance, and say, I've discovered a load of hardware that doesn't have antivirus installed. We need to take a look at our build process to make sure that antivirus is being installed and maintained correctly. I've got a large number of pieces of hardware that don't have a discovery tool installed. Can we look at our build process to make sure that the discovery tool is being installed on everything? So when you're at that very first stage of going through this process and of implementing the asset verification process, don't worry about fixing individual discrepancies. Really focus on how you can do process improvements to remediate a load of data all at once, a load of data issues all at once.
And what you may find as well over time is that if you are correcting those errors and you are driving down the 30s or the 40s or the hundreds or the 200s of those errors that appear, you may get to a point where in time you're not running the process weekly or fortnightly. You can start thinking about running it monthly or even quarterly then, if you've got faith in the data that's actually coming in.
Yeah, and the other thing is that you need to start doing different reports as well. You don't want your reports to get stale. So as your data becomes more accurate in some areas, start thinking about other ways that you can test it and other attributes that you can test to make sure that they're accurate as well. So I think in terms of the challenges around this process, it's definitely working with stakeholders to explain to them the importance of the importance of accurate data, why the discrepancies you're seeing have occurred, and getting them on board to change their processes, to build a business case to say, look, we've got to review this build process, it's causing us problems. So engaging those stakeholders requires producing the data, helping them understand the implications of the inaccurate data, and then working with them to improve those processes and actually implement those process improvements in real life.
Yeah, hopefully the argument will be fairly clear and fairly obvious. If you're rather like the example we gave you, any InfoSec manager worth his salt is going to be quite keen to see that devices on the IT estate are properly protected with antivirus. So it shouldn't need to be an arm-twisting experience to actually get people to buy into the improvement process around the data there.
And it also buys nicely into, or feeds nicely into, your continual service improvement processes. If you've got continual service improvement plans and things like that, that's where you can start providing the evidence of the issues and start building the business case for the process improvement too. So as your processes mature and they become better and they're producing fewer and fewer data discrepancies, your focus can move away from things, from managing the assets and reporting on the assets that are on the network, and should become focused on those aspects of the asset lifecycle where the equipment is not on the network, and where asset and data discrepancies are likely to be the result of human error. And these are things like, where is your equipment in stock? Where is your equipment, making sure that you have accurate data about which equipment is on order or which equipment's been disposed or what equipment is out for repair. Because they're all areas of the life cycle where you don't have that automated data feedback because the equipment's not on the network. So you need to start developing discrepancy reports that can help you identify this human error. And it might be as simple as doing a weekly check of the stock room to make sure that all the equipment that is marked as being in stock is actually in the stock room. At this stage of your maturity level, you'll find that it's more individual error and it's more human error. So at this point you can engage, for instance, your service management team to have a protocol, to put a protocol in place where if you do identify a discrepancy, an asset's not in the stock room and it should be, then you can log a call with the service desk and get one of the engineers to go and find that asset. But you need to agree that with all the stakeholders, and that can be very difficult as well.
Yeah. Point two on this process, and actually trying to manage the data and the expectation as you set to the business as well, is perhaps not to get hung up on the given number of discrepancies, but compare it as a percentage against the overall IT estate. You may well find that you've got 2,000 devices that you somehow can't account for either in an InfoSec or in an inventory manner. But if you're on a 200,000 device IT estate, you're not doing too badly there. So it's relative and it's subjective then. So find out what those bands of acceptable behaviour actually are in regards to data verification.
Absolutely. And this feeds into your KPIs as well. So do make sure that your KPIs are measurable and they're smart, and as we said before, make sure they're focused on process improvement as well.
Indeed. So that's all for this video. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll be in touch soon with the next video that's coming along.
Next month.
All right, thanks very much.
Bye.